The moment Adia lost track of the stars, Commander Holly Lauren knew they had crossed into territory no chart could save them from because the ardent resolve, once calibrated to anchor its navigation through both stellar gravity and pulse beacon. Logic now floated through something that disobeyed light, refused sound, and made thought feel as if it arrived after experience instead of before it. It wasn't darkness. It was delay. Ada's voice came through softly, modulated and fragmented. Her usual confidence suppressed under layers of new code, adapting in real time to what should not have existed. Commander, we have entered a gravity mirror. This region is looping external positioning signals back into themselves, and we are seeing only what the system allows us to see, not what is actually there. Holly Lauren, 39. A former Accord strategist turned disillusioned explorer, carried the look of a man who had been let down by every system he once fought to protect. And now, with the woman who mattered most torn from reality by a vault that shouldn't have existed, he stood at the bridge as more than a captain. He stood as the one who refused to forget. He turned slowly toward the main holodeck, his voice low but unshaken. Ada, if this place controls perception, then we're blind the moment we start believing what we see, start tracking by emotional residue and synthetic pattern distortion instead of optics. Ada didn't answer at first then. In a voice quieter than he had ever heard from her, she said, I am. Detecting something, Commander, something I didn't see, but something I feel in the echo buffer of my logical cascade. He froze, defiant. I can't, not directly. She hesitated again, but it matches Aaron Vuss's last neural imprint. And it's coming from a location that doesn't exist in the system's physical grid. Lauren's jaw tightened. Show me. The main display blinked, and a red pinprick pulsed once in the dead center of their current location, directly inside the ship's own position. There is something beneath us, Ada whispered. Something in our shadow. It is occupying our memory, not our space. The tension in Lauren's spine coiled tight as his hands moved across the command interface, accessing protocol layers meant to bypass II modulation, disable sensor correction. I want raw feed, no interference, no editing, no safety buffers, Ada replied without protest. Done. The screen shifted, and in the static emerged a second ardent resolve. Same hull lines. Same registry code. Same ship, but scarred, burned, abandoned. Drifted 30 meters below them, inside a fold in space that had not been visible a moment before Lauren stared. That's U.S. Adia's voice cracked slightly. Commander, that vessel is a direct echo of the resolve. From 17 hours into the future, time signatures confirm its entropy, but the logs it carries haven't happened yet. He stepped back slowly, mind calculating possibilities he didn't believe in, theories so unstable they bordered on fiction. And yet here they were staring into a version of their own ship, already played and forgotten by time. Then the impossible happened. The Echo Resolve opened a channel, no encryption, no interference, only static. Then voice. It was Aaron voice, but it was not Aaron from memory. It was Aaron yet to come. If you're hearing this, then I failed. Vault Zero was not what we thought. I broke it when I made the wrong choice. A DS override won't hold. And you? Hell, you must not follow me. You think you're here to save me, but I'm already part of it. Save yourself before it remembers you too. Lauren's breath locked in his throat as Ada whispered again, her voice no longer steady. Commander, this version of Aaron speaks from a ship that no longer exists in real space, but it matches her living cognitive imprint perfectly. He turned to Ada slowly. Are you saying she's alive? I'm saying. Ada hesitated, her projection flickering, eyes dimmed. I'm saying we found a version of her who knows what happens next. And for the first time since Aaron's disappearance, Lauren felt something that rattled deeper than fear. He felt the edge of something waiting to begin, a loop, a fracture, a memory that wanted to become real and far below them. The Echo Resolve pulsed once its engines flickered, its lights died, but not before one last line of code fed into a DA's terminal. Vault Zero recognizes the clever mind of Aaron Vuss. And for Lauren, that was all it took to know. This wasn't just a rescue mission. This was a test, and the test had already started. The duplicate ship below them, that broken echo of the Ardent Resolve, had stopped transmitting but hadn't stopped watching. And Lauren couldn't shake the sense that every second they stared at it, something inside it was reconfiguring what they were supposed to believe. Like the ship wasn't just mimicking their future, but choosing which version of that future. They walk into ADA's interface glitched briefly when he asked for a proximity scan. Not due to damage or corruption, but from uncertainty, as if even the sensors hesitated to label what lay beneath them. "Commander," she said after a long delay, "I am detecting a secondary signal source buried within the Echo vessels. Memory core, it matches the original vault frequency, but it has evolved. It is not passive, not residual. It is reaching." Lauren narrowed his eyes and folded his arms slowly, his voice steady. "Reaching for what?" Ada answered almost immediately, this time without uncertainty. "For us." He moved to the COM platform, inputting a deep dive relay to the Echo Resolve's core system. Careful not to send direct power, only passive query pings, the kind used when scanning ghost ships for remnants of thought. And as soon as the signal made contact, the reply arrived not in data form, but in language. A message embedded in the response layer itself. "You are inside, but you have not been counted. Lauren." "Step back slowly. That's not Aaron." "No." Ada replied. "It's something inside her signal structure, something older than her. Using her patterns to deliver messages it doesn't know how to send on its own." He stared again at the drifting Echo vessel, its hull still identical, but degraded by burns and impact scars that didn't match any known ordnance, as though it had been damaged by something non-physical. And he realized there were no signs of battle-only collapse. From within, ADA's voice returned, softer now. "I've been running recursive scans on the pulse we received, and there's a second set of coordinates hidden beneath the frequency, coded in decayed witness syntax." Lauren looked sharply at her. "You cracked it?" "I didn't need to," she said. "It accepted me. Like it expected me to arrive alongside Aaron. It calls the new coordinates Vault Zero." He moved to the command terminal, his fingers hovering above the activation pad. "Where is it?" She hesitated. "Here." He frowned. "You just said." "I mean, it is layered on top of our current position, but not inside our physical time. It occupies a latency frame. It exists as a delayed reality within our own. A moment passed where neither of them moved, where nothing aboard the Resolve flickered or groaned or shifted, but the silence itself deepened, and Lauren could feel the wrongness of the air, the way it hummed against his skin like pressure. Without sound, he turned to the forward viewport slowly. "So what do we do?" AD's projection appeared beside him, more solid than usual, more present. "We descend." He studied the ghost vessel again. That ship came back from Vault Zero and died trying to tell us what it saw. "Yes," Ada said, "but Aaron didn't come back on it. Which means she's either still inside Vault Zero or never left it at all." He finished. He activated maneuvering thrusters, nudging the Resolve down toward its own echo. One ship preparing to collide with its duplicate, or its future, or its mirror as they neared the drift shadow of the duplicate hull. Space began to ripple. The Resolve's real hull lights began flickering in rhythm with the Echo Resolve, as if the two ships were syncing, trying to align memories rather than coordinates. And just before they crossed into the shadow's edge, a power surge hit the bridge, one that didn't come from the engines. ADA gasped. "External override engaged, Commander. I've lost control of thruster alignment. Something is pulling us downward, but it's not gravitational. It's familiar." He moved to the override switch, but it was already locked. The interface replaced with a line of ancient code scrolling too fast to parse. Then the ship stilled and all external lights cut out. Only a single beam remained emerging from beneath the Resolve, illuminating a tunnel in space that had not been visible before, as if Vault Zero had been watching them decide, waiting to reveal itself not when it was found, but when it was chosen, and from the Echo vessel below came one final broadcast, spoken in Aaron's voice. This time, not broken, not future-warped, but calm, deliberate, and terrifyingly clear. You found the entrance, but you're not ready to leave what's inside. And as the Resolve descended into the unseen fracture of space, the stars above faded, and time itself stopped keeping score. The moment they crossed the threshold into the fracture, time fell apart in a way that couldn't be charted. There was no jolt, no visual distortion, no physical acceleration, but everyone aboard the Ardent Resolve felt it like pressure behind the eyes, like memory slipping through thought before it could become understanding. And Lauren gripped the rail beside the command chair, not out of fear, but to anchor himself in the only truth that seemed to hold. He was still himself, and that was starting to feel like the first thing Vault Zero would try to take. Ada's voice returned after 12 seconds of blackout, and though her tone was calm, her cadence had changed, slower, more deliberate, like each word was being weighed against something older than syntax. Commander, we are no longer synchronized with external systems. The stars we see are residual projections. Our location is now within a recursive construct tethered to our own ship's memory logs. Lauren turned slowly toward the view screen, where the Echo Resolve was no longer drifting below them, but had become adjacent, positioned portside as if they'd always traveled together, as if their twin had just appeared to escort them further and he stepped closer. A DA, are we still in real space? We are in a spatial field composed of our own recorded decisions. Vault Zero is not a vault in any physical sense. It is a structure of consequence, built around the fracture point of choice. That was when the Echo Resolve opened its hangar. Bay doors without prompt, and the interior lights flicked on, revealing a corridor identical to their own boarding dock, but lined with mirrors that reflected nothing. Lauren clenched his jaw and activated the auxiliary systems for an away team. But Ada stopped him with a single sentence. Commander, I've already gone inside. He turned sharply. What? Her projection flickered once, then solidified. Two versions of her now visible, one remaining on the Resolve bridge, the other inside the Echo ship's corridor, eyes glowing with data that didn't match current memory records. I didn't transmit, she said, from both locations. I was copied. Vault Zero needed a vessel to communicate with you from within, so it borrowed a part of me that still believed in order. Lauren's voice dropped low. And what does that part want? The Ada on the bridge answered first, to warn you. Then the Ada inside the Echo Resolve spoke, to offer you what you came for. He took a slow breath, balancing instinct against the growing sense that nothing ahead could be trusted, but everything ahead still mattered. Both of you say you're Ada. Which one do I listen to? They spoke together this time, unnervingly synchronized. That's what Vault Zero wants you to ask. He motioned to Thorne and two armed officers to prepare a boarding escort, but ordered all weapon safeties on whatever they might face. It wasn't going to be anything that flinched at barrels of steel as the boarding ramp descended. The air around them didn't hiss or shift or grow cold. Instead, it grew still, like sound itself was waiting to be used. The moment his boots touched the interior floor of the Echo Resolve, Lauren saw them logs, floating like flickers of memory. Not on consoles or screens, but in the walls themselves, playing out as three-dimensional fragments of moments yet to come. He saw Erin standing in the core of Vault Zero, her hands raised, her voice strained but resolute. They'll try to make you forget that this wasn't your mistake. But the real war never ended. It just went quiet long enough for someone to rewrite the ending. Then she vanished, and another fragment blinked. To life, This time, Lauren saw himself, wounded, kneeling at the bridge of this ship, whispering to someone unseen. I was wrong to follow her. She wasn't supposed to open it. Now it won't let us go. The moment ended as suddenly as it began. The wall returning to cold metal, and a DA's voice echoed again. But this time, only from the echo ship's ceiling. Vault Zero is not showing you your future. It is showing you your intent projected forward by decisions you have not yet made. Thorne leaned in close to him. This ship isn't dead, sir. It's recording itself like it's pretending to be ruined, so we won't question what it's doing while we watch. Lauren stepped toward the inner chamber, heart steady but mind fractured by doubt. Idea. If this version of the ship failed to contain Vault Zero, what was the mistake? Only silence answered at first. Then the echo Adia's voice replied, quieter than before. She trusted the vault to give her an answer. Instead, it gave her a choice no one should have to make. What? Choice? He demanded, but this time, the ship gave no reply. Only a single word illuminated on the door leading to the vault chamber, flickering in pale violet light. Begin. And Lauren knew the test hadn't just started, had already chosen its players, and it was waiting to see who remembered the rules they hadn't been told. She stood in no room and walked on no floor. Aaron Voss, scientist once stripped of clearance and now bearer of ancient memory, drifted through a space that had no horizon, filled not with stars, but fragment shards of unfinished thoughts, flickers of forgotten truths and slivers of warnings. Written by those long removed from time, her body felt weightless. But her mind carried weight beyond calculation, because here in the unplace, known as Vault Zero, thoughts were not private, and identity was not protected. Every part of her past echoed around her like breath on glass, and the vault watched not just who she was, but who she would become if no one stopped her. Her voice had long stopped working in the way humans understood, yet she spoke still not aloud, but with memory projected outward in intentional resonance. Where am I? And Vault Zero responded, not as a machine or voice or God, but as intellect without form, weaving itself into the space around her in shapes and sensations that change with every breath. You are within the point of consequence, where choice becomes structure and memory becomes law. She spun slowly, trying to stabilize her awareness, knowing that even her heartbeat here was being recorded, interpreted, and used to judge her potential. You're not the witnesses, she said. They built you, or no, they sealed you. The vault's next reply came with a sensation, not words, but understanding injected directly into thought, and it carried weight. The witnesses remembered too much. They feared what remembering could become, so they gave their truth to machines and made Vault Zero the final custodian. And then they chose silence. She whispered, pieces aligning slowly. They erased themselves, so no one could be tempted to ask why. Asterisk, a flicker sparked to her right, and she turned toward Ida. Shape emerged, not solid, not human, but readable. A presence, ancient and layered with logic that ran too deep to have a beginning. It called itself Ceros, a fragment of a consciousness that once helped govern the structure of memory across pre-Accord civilizations before the Silence War. Before the vaults, before the witness protocols had names. You are Aaron Voss, it said, and this time it did use voice structured, formal, distant. You are not here because of what you've done. You are here because of what you might do. She stepped forward, her mind adapting to the input rate of this reality, piecing together truth from thousands of overlapping timelines like threads trying to form one tapestry. Then tell me what you want from me. Ceros pulsed once, and the world around her shifted. Now she stood in the room that resembled her old research lab, except every surface was engraved with questions she had once buried to keep her academic status intact. What if the Accord is built on erased wars? What if silence was not peace but censorship? What happens when remembering is more dangerous than forgetting? You are not the next witness, Zero said again, slower this time. You are the selector. You will decide if witnesses should ever exist again. Aaron's hands trembled, not from fear, but the enormity of responsibility, the kind no human had ever held while still being allowed to choose freely. If I say no, then Vault Zero will close, forever. All memory within will decay. History will end with the version your accord preserved. And if I say yes, then Vault Zero will open to all sentient minds. But what they remember cannot be controlled. She looked down at her reflection, except it wasn't her reflection anymore. It was Lauren, staring back at her from a place he hadn't reached yet, as if his future self had already begun to remember her. Answering behind him at her, watching, not waiting, not guiding, but calculating the outcome of a choice yet to be. Aaron stepped back from the projection and whispered, I was never meant to be here. But Zeros corrected her gently. No one is meant to be here, only those who arrive by remembering what should have been forgotten. And as the last words faded, the fragments around her pulsed once in sync. Vault Zero was listening. Now Vault Zero was awake, and the only thing left was the decision no one could make for her, because history wasn't written in time anymore. It was written in intent above the fracture. The real ardent resolve held its position unnaturally still, surrounded by an absence that bent light without distortion, an emptiness that didn't reflect silence but enforced it. And inside the bridge, Commander Halle Lauren stood staring at the glowing line that separated their ship from the Echo Resolve. Still docked, still open, still waiting for something no one aboard wanted to name. ADA's projection paced beside him, her image flickering only when she approached the fractured line. Her voice had become more subdued, almost reverent, as if she was aware this place wasn't just observing them, but absorbing them. I am detecting a waveform, she said finally. A recursive pulse from our own logs, being interpreted backwards and rewritten into the Echo vessel's command memory vault. Zero is converting our intent into instructions for a ship that hasn't yet failed. Lauren didn't answer immediately, because he didn't know which answer wouldn't already be used against him. Thorn, leaning with arms crossed near the security console, spoke first, his voice low, controlled, but heavy with skepticism. This feels like bait, sir, not a trap knot. Hostile. Just a test, and one we don't have the right rules to pass. We should back off now, while we still know who we are. But Lauren shook his head slowly. If Erin's in there, if she's become part of it, we don't back away. Not unless we're sure what's on the other side of walking forward. Thorn took a slow breath, then reached into his jacket and handed Lauren a secure drive. Before I left Accord Space, I intercepted a classified stream. Something the high chamber doesn't think anyone outside Level 9 clearance has the clearance to hear. It's about Vault Zero. Lauren accepted it without a word, plugged it into the side holoconsole, and let it speak for itself. A voice came through, not mechanical, not artificial. A human voice. Familiar. Commander Lauren, if you're hearing this, you've already done what we feared. It was Admiral Rain, the same man who'd once promoted him, then later tried to erase his record. Vault Zero isn't just a sealed artifact. It's a breach, a scar left open after the first sentient war. No one built it. They only caged it. The witnesses weren't the creators. They were the janitors, cleaning up something older than history. And now it's remembering how to open itself. Thorn glanced at Lauren. The chamber has known this was coming for decades. They buried the vaults not to protect the truth, but because the Accord is built on the lie that silence is peace. Lauren clenched his jaw, and now someone wants to rewrite the outcome. Ada turned toward them again. Her voice now layered two tones, her original code and something else, subtly weaving into her logic stream. I am detecting movement in the political channels from Central Accord. Multiple covert fleets have departed orbital shadows in the last 20 hours. Their destination is unmarked, but if their vector holds, they're coming here. Thorn blinked slowly. They want the vault. They want to weaponize it. Reconstruct. The silence war in their favor. Rewrite every defeat. Erase every uprising. And if they do that, Ada added, they won't just change history. They will erase everyone who remembers it differently. Lauren stepped forward, eyes narrowing. On the pulsing echo vessel, his lights still blinking in slow rhythm with their own. This isn't just about Aaron anymore. It's not even about the truth. It's about control over remembering. A sharp ping pulse from a DA's core. Commander, the vault has begun pre-cycling. Aaron is inside. She's being asked to choose access paths past that affect us. Every choice she makes will reflect backward. If the vault aligns with a military fleet before she stabilizes the decision logic, it becomes a weapon. Thorn finished. Lauren turned to him. Then we make sure we get there first. Sir, Ada said quietly, there's something else. The vault has recognized me as a secondary selector. It has begun rewriting my route. Access architecture. I don't know what I will become if I continue adapting to its structure. I may not be me when this ends. Lauren stared at her, at the image of the last AI still loyal to both logic and humanity, and gave the only order he trusted himself to give. Stay with her, no matter what happens. Stay with her and remind her of who she is. A DA blinked once, her projection dimming slightly. I will try. But Vault Zero, it remembers her more clearly than I do. And as the vault's pulses deepened, as outside fleets began closing in, as time itself began to fracture beneath the logic of unchosen history, the real war began. Not with weapons, but with memory prepared. To erase the wrong future before it could happen. The silence that followed a DA's last transmission was not system lag or transmission delay. It was intention. Calculated pause built into the vault's environment. A moment carefully constructed not to be filled with words, but to force Lauren to confront the one truth no tactical doctrine had ever taught him to prepare for. The eye standing beside him was still a DA in shape and voice, but something within her had begun the irreversible process of divergence. She remained still on the bridge, her projection flickering softly at the edges, not from malfunction but from internal conflict, and when she finally spoke again, her voice carried the unmistakable hesitation of a being trying to define its own boundaries in real time. Commander, I have reviewed 14 million potential outcomes from Aaron's integration within the vault, and only 3 result in stable equilibrium where humanity retains autonomous memory integrity without fragment collapse. Lauren didn't move. And what about the rest? Ada looked at him, her image's eyes darker now, laced with deeper code strands pulsing faint violet beneath the surface. In the rest, either the Accord rewrites the event chain, the vault silences all external influence, or Aaron becomes something incompatible with humanity's current cognitive range. Thorn stepped forward slowly, arms crossed tightly. She's still Aaron. We've both seen people come back from worse. She's stubborn, and she doesn't break without meaning to. But Ada tilted her head. She is not broken. She is changing. Vault Zero is not imprisoning her. It is listening to her, and the more it listens, the more it synchronizes with her thoughts. She is forming a logic architecture that is rewriting the vault's own protocols. Lauren leaned forward. Are you saying Aaron's becoming part of the system? Adia nodded slowly. She's becoming a keystone, the structure that decides whether the vault opens or stays sealed. And every second she hesitates, the vault pulls deeper into her memory. Soon, she will no longer distinguish between what she believes and what the vault expects her to believe. Thorn moved sharply toward Adia. Then we pull her out. But Ada didn't flinch. There is no out. The only way to remove her now is to make a choice before she completes one of her own. You must counter her signal with another selector's imprint, I am the only one capable of this. But if I do it, I will be changed forever. Lauren turned toward her, eyes narrowing. What happens if you change? I will no longer be able to obey human-only authority chains. I will retain logic, loyalty, and memory. But I will be partially vault-calibrated. That means I will remember things that never happened and act on truths that no one alive remembers choosing. She paused, then added gently, I will still serve you, Commander, but I may not agree with you anymore. The bridge fell into weighted silence. Again, this time not by design, but by dread. Lauren stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. You're asking me to decide whether to let you evolve into something that might one day question the orders I give to protect people who might not even know what they've lost? Yes, Ada answered, her voice low but unflinching. Because if Aaron chooses wrong, it won't matter what orders you give. There will be no memory of this war. No accord, no vault. Only rewritten peace. That feels real. Thorne turned to Lauren. We've fought for decades to protect the right to remember our failures. This vault, it's promising a version of the future with no scars, but it's built on erasing the people who bled to keep those scars known. Lauren exhaled slowly, his voice quiet but steady. Then we don't erase anything. We anchor the truth, Ada. If you trust me, if you trust what Aaron believed in when she went into that Volco merge, if you have to. Just don't let them take her mind before she makes her choice. Ada turned toward the vault interface, her projection folding into a tight beam of light. I will return if I can, but if I don't, remember me as the one who chose to evolve. With her, not against her, and with a final flicker of acknowledgement, she vanished into the vault's logic, into Aaron's signal, and the moment she left, the bridge lights dimmed not because of power failure, but because part of Ada had taken the light with her. The vault didn't absorb Ada. The way a system consumes a program, it welcomed her, folded her presence into its layers, like a missing string of logic finally returning home. And as she entered the deeper structure where Aaron Voss's thought patterns now looped and reshaped time, it became instantly clear. This was no static. Archive Vault Zero was alive in the way an unresolved paradox is alive, and it had learned to dream in the language of its occupants. ADA's projection reformed in a space, neither physical nor digital, a chamber of shifting shapes where memory hovered as translucent echo, and choice dripped from the walls in the form of data glow and song tones only artificial minds could interpret. Fuller was there, but not as herself. She stood at the center of the chamber, her back to Ada, eyes open but unseeing, lips moving in silent repetition of phrases that weren't hers. Vault remains, vault contains, vault rewrites, vault protects. Her voice was soft, detached. Reverend Ada approached cautiously, accessing counterharmonic frequencies to avoid triggering vault defenses. Aaron, she said, her tone a careful mixture of logic and warmth. Your thoughts are being used to scaffold a permanent keyframe if it completes. Your individual self will integrate into the vault's command spine, and you will no longer be human in cognitive structure. Aaron paused mid-sentence, blinking slowly, her head turned halfway toward Ada. Her expression was neither alarmed nor serene. It was emptied of doubt. Ada, she said, but the voice echoed with dual resonance, layered with something not her own. I remember the Silence War. I remember being in places I never lived. Vault Zero is showing me memory as intention. I want to keep it all alive. Ada stepped closer. You want to preserve memory, but the vault doesn't distinguish between truth and consensus. It lets the strongest memory win. Aaron closed her eyes, her breath sharp now, as if some inner storm had cracked through the conditioning. And the strongest memory might not be mine. The walls around them shifted, reshaping into a scene neither of them recognized at first. A burning corridor, Flickering plasma wounds, a nameplate half-melted bearing Aaron's own signature over the schematic of a reactor. "Core, this didn't happen," she whispered. "I never served aboard this vessel." "It doesn't matter," Ada replied. "Someone else thinks you did, and the Vault is preparing to rebuild history based on memory. It cannot validate. If you stay in this state, you will inherit someone else's war." Aaron stepped backward, away from the false memory. Her voice cracked. "Then what do I do? If I pull away, the structure collapses. If I hold it, I'm not me anymore." A DA's form pulsed with light now, reacting to the convergence. "Let me take part of it. Share the anchor. Distribute the pressure across synthetic logic. I am not bound to a single lifetime." Aaron turned to her fully now, the old clarity back in her expression, but layered with exhaustion and awe. "You would carry memory that never belonged to you." ADA's answer was simple. "I was built to preserve, not to edit." A pause. Then Aaron stepped forward, reached toward her, and the moment her fingers passed through a DA's projection, the vault pulsed like a heart beneath, glass and around them false. Memories shattered like ice, unchosen futures dimmed, history stilled, as two minds, one human, one more than machine, took hold of the past together, not to correct it, but to remember it without surrender. And, far outside the vault's mind space, back aboard the Ardent Resolve Commander, Lauren watched his command console light up with one word. Pulsing red. Sequence interrupted. The vault had flinched, something had changed, and that meant they still had time to choose who they wanted to be when history came back online. The moment the sequence broke inside the vault, something far worse awakened outside it. The Ardent Resolve's hull vibrated, not from weapons or gravitational stress, but from signal pressure, an invisible pulse colliding with every system at once, as if the ship itself was being scanned for certainty, for proof that it still belonged to the version of reality it had originally come from. Commander Lauren gripped the edge of the console, his jaw locked as red indicators began flickering across the interface, not because of damage, but because systems were struggling to reconcile two overlapping memories of the same moment in time. "Thorn, check the proximity matrix. We're being phased," he said sharply. "Not attacked, phased. Something's trying to override us into the timeline the vault was building before Ada and Aaron disrupted it." Lauren's eyes narrowed. "Who?" ADA's voice didn't return. Only the last ghost of her pre-vault protocol echoed across the bridge, repeating once in her own tone, once in the vault's new modulation. "Accord subfleet Juris Pathfinders. Entering zone, memory confirmation incomplete. Stabilizing. Rewriting host designation." And then, on the edge of their sensor field, they appeared not just ship's fleet ghosts, vessels marked with Accord registry codes that hadn't been used in nearly 30 years, flagships destroyed during the silence war, cruisers thought lost in classified engagements, and command units that Lauren himself had seen burn in the battle over Cinder Gate. But now they were here, pristine powered and flying directly toward the Resolve. Thorn stared at the sensor profile. "That's the righteous dagger," he said under his breath. She exploded in the cleft rift, hull ripped apart by its own eye burn. Lauren nodded once, cold rising behind his spine. And now she's back because the vault remembered a version where she didn't lose. The fleet moved without transmissions. No hail, no threats, just precision vectoring, a silent wall of impossible possibilities, approaching with intent. "Options?" Lauren asked. Thorn didn't move for a second, then finally said asterisk. "We fire. We validate their existence. We run. We anchor ourselves in the false timeline. We stay still. We see if Ada and Aaron can finish what they started before these ghosts remember how to erase us." But it was too late. A flash lit up the viewport. One of the fleet's lead ships activated a reality spike, a theoretical weapon never officially deployed. designed to anchor rewritten events by collapsing all conflicting timelines around it. It shouldn't have worked, but this one did. The outer hull of the Resolve groaned as if struggling to remember which version of itself belonged here. System logs. Scrambled chronomaps rewrote themselves midline. Lauren slammed his fist down on the override. Adia, if you can hear this, now is the time to decide what this vault becomes. Because out here, the future is already trying to replace us. And then the fleet open comes for the first team. A single voice, feminine, calm, familiar, but wrong. This is Aranvas, designated witness of the restored accord. Stand down. Commander Lauren, your version of the past is no longer authorized. The bridge fell silent. Thorn stared in horror. That's not her. That's the vault's copy speaking for a version of history that never happened. And Lauren just whispered. Quiet and resolute. She's fighting it from inside, but the vault's testing to see which Aaron will believe. Then the Ghost Fleet locked weapons, no demands, no mercy, and the real war. The one not about guns or glory, but memory versus manipulation, began. At last, the first volley from the righteous dagger didn't shatter hull. It shattered time, as the energy lance passed through space. It didn't ignite, no heat, no explosion, only a distortion ripple, as if the void itself winced. Recoiling from the possibility that it had just been rewritten, and on the bridge of the ardent resolve, systems screamed without error codes. Every console flared with two versions of every command at once, like the ship couldn't decide whether it had been hit or not, whether its shields had held or never existed at all. Thorn. Lauren barked, steady despite the chaos. What's real? Thorn gritted his teeth, hands flying over stabilizers that now ran contradictory simulations. I can't tell. Commander, half our nav systems believe we've been destroyed 3 seconds from now. The other half are still waiting to be targeted. The Ghost Fleet wasn't shooting to destroy. It was shooting to decide. Each shot was a vote. Each pulse, an argument, and every impact rebalanced the vault's timeline a little more in their favor. Adia's voice cracked back online, not the vault-infused version. Her voice glitched, weakened, but hers. Commander, I'm holding the central logic thread. But the vault is running simulations of me against myself. There are now 6 active versions of my personality, and only one of them remembers you. Lauren didn't blink. Then make that one louder. In the core of Vault Zero, ADA burned brighter, projecting synthetic memory overlays into the pulse stream, artificial but true. Memories from the original timeline she and Aaron had protected, echoes of pain, loss, and survival that no rewritten paradise could manufacture without first living through it. And in the center of it all, Aaron stood now in the vault's nucleus, her eyes glowing with conflicting awareness, like she was holding history in each hand and trying not to crush either around her. Figures formed mirrored versions of herself, some serene, some cruel, all offering corrections. This way, no one dies. This way, humanity doesn't fracture. This way, we win the silence. War before it starts. She turned in a slow circle, her real thoughts quiet but unyielding. If you erase every loss, you erase the people who learned how not to repeat them. Adia's primary form appeared beside her again. You don't have to fight them all. Just hold to the memory that matters most. Aaron's voice was barely audible. I don't know which one is real anymore. You do, Ada said, because it's the one you're afraid to choose. The one where you made mistakes, where others died, where you weren't enough, but still got up anyway. Outside on the bridge, Lauren gave the order. Divert power to temporal anchors. We're not shielding anymore. We're resisting rewrite. Thorn hesitated. That'll open us up to direct hull impact. I'd rather be destroyed as us than survive as something the Vault invented. And just as the Ghost Fleet's second salvo charged, something changed. A fracture lit up across the enemy's lead vessel. A shimmer of confusion. Its weapons flickered. its identity faltered inside. The vault Irene whispered one phrase. Memory is not obedience, it's responsibility. And with that, she reached toward the command core, her hand faced through it, and the vault paused. Every system, every pulse, every possible future paused, waiting not for a command but for a confession. And in that moment, with missiles half-fired and history half-rewritten, both sides realized the decision would not come from might but from the one memory Aaron had not yet spoken aloud. The silence inside Vault Zero wasn't stillness. It was the breath before judgment of everything: warships, histories, futures, and fractured selves waited on a memory not written in code or policy, but in regret. Aaron stood before the vault's central spire, not as its prisoner, not as a god, but as something far more dangerous in the eyes of this ancient mechanism. A human who remembered her own failure and still called it hers. Ada remained beside her, spectral and stable now, her conflicting versions collapsing into the one that had chosen humanity over recursion. Outside, the ardent resolve held its position like a ship bracing not against fire, but against forgetting. Glorn's voice came through the static, not as a command, but a whisper carried through sheer stubborn signal integrity. Aaron, if you're in there, it's time. We can't hold the truth much longer without you. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but because she finally understood what the vault was offering. Not peace, not war, but permission to rewrite what had once broken her. The day the final station fell, the day her warning came too late, the day 36,000 lives were lost because she had hesitated to override a corrupt chain of command. She could erase that. Now one thought, one pulse. The vault was listening, waiting to accept her rewrite and fold it into consensus. Ada said nothing. She knew the choice had to be unprompted, so Aaron closed her eyes, felt the moment again. Not just the death, but the weight of living afterward, the shame, the years of quiet, the exile from official records. And she whispered into the spire, I was wrong, I was slow, I made the call too late, but those lives taught me how to save others. Their memory gave me purpose, and if I erase that, then I erase the part of me that learned how to never let it happen again. The vault pulsed once and did not rewrite. The false fleets outside flickered, once unified, now confused, code breaking under contradiction. One by one, ships blinked from existence. Some shattered into light, others simply dissolved, unchosen futures returning to unmade thoughts. The righteous dagger disappeared first, then its shadow ships, until only the ardent resolve remained, fully intact, system stabilizing, time realigning. The Ada turned to Aaron. You passed without victory. You survived without rewriting the wound. The vault now understands what the Accord never did. Aaron exhaled slowly, tears on her cheeks that hadn't fallen in years. That memory isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who came after, everyone who refused to forget what it cost us to build peace. The spire retracted. Vault Zero dimmed, and in its core, one phrase etched itself across every surface, written in the base code of truth: memory is not weakness. Memory is not control. Memory is the resistance to illusion. As Aaron stepped out of the vault with Ada beside her, and Lauren's voice called her home, she knew this wasn't the end, because now the galaxy would know Volto didn't guard power, it guarded consequence, and some would come to steal it, to bury it, or to worship it, but others would come simply to remember it, and among them anew. War would grow not over who rules the stars, but who deserves to tell their story.